One game, one heartbeat. That's all it takes for triumph to turn into tragedy. In an instant, the roar of the crowd turns to silence, haunting reminders that even the strongest can fall when fate decides to strike. It was October 24, 1971, at Tiger Stadium in Detroit, Michigan. Chuck Hughes, a 28-year-old wide receiver for the Detroit Lions, was playing in a hard-fought game against the Chicago Bears. The stadium was packed with over 54,000 fans, the atmosphere electric as the Lions trailed 28-23 in the final minutes. No one could have imagined that within moments, they would witness the only death to ever occur during an NFL game. Born in Philadelphia and raised in Texas, Hughes had defied the odds to make it to professional football. Standing 6 feet tall and weighing 185 pounds, he wasn't the biggest or fastest player, but his determination and precise route running made him valuable. After starring at Texas Western College, now UTEP, Hughes was drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in 1967 before being traded to Detroit in 1970. Though primarily a backup, Hughes was known for his work ethic and positive attitude. Teammates described him as a friendly, Western kind of guy, with a distinctive giggle and an infectious smile. He was a devoted husband to Sharon and father to their 2-year-old son, Shane. That fateful Sunday, Hughes entered the game in the fourth quarter after starter Larry Walton suffered an ankle injury. With just over 2 minutes remaining, Hughes made a spectacular 32-yard catch, his first and only reception of the season. He was immediately hit hard by 2 Bears defenders, but got up and jogged back to the huddle. A few plays later, with 1 minute and 2 seconds left on the clock, Hughes ran a deep pattern as quarterback Greg Landry threw to tight end Charlie Sanders. As Hughes turned to head back toward the huddle, he suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed face first onto the turf near the Chicago 20-yard line. Initially, some players thought he might be faking an injury to stop the clock, a common tactic in those days. But Bears linebacker Dick Butkus, who was nearest to Hughes, immediately recognized something was terribly wrong. Butkus frantically waved toward the Lions bench, calling for medical help. Team doctors Edwin Guys and Richard Thompson rushed onto the field along with trainers. They performed CPR as the stadium fell eerily silent. A doctor from the stands even ran down to assist. Hughes was quickly loaded onto a stretcher and rushed to Henry Ford Hospital, but it was too late. At 5:34 p.m., Chuck Hughes was pronounced dead. The autopsy revealed that Hughes had died of a heart attack caused by a massive coronary thrombosis, a blood clot that had blocked a coronary artery that was already 70% blocked by atherosclerosis. The report also mentioned old scarring on the posterior wall of the heart, suggesting he had suffered a previous, undetected heart attack. Most shocking was that Hughes had shown warning signs. 7 weeks earlier, he had collapsed in the locker room after a preseason game against Buffalo and spent 4 days in the hospital. Doctors diagnosed a possible spleen injury, missing the heart condition that would ultimately take his life. After Hughes was taken from the field, the game resumed for its final 62 seconds. The Bears ran out the clock, and players left the field unaware of the tragedy unfolding at the hospital. Only later in the locker room did the Lions learn they had lost their teammate. The NFL community mourned Hughes deeply. The Lions retired his number 85 and wore black armbands in his memory. His death led to improved cardiac care at NFL stadiums, including the introduction of defibrillators and better emergency protocols. Chuck Hughes' tragic story remains a sobering reminder of the fragility of life, even among elite athletes in their prime. His legacy lives on not just in the safety improvements his death inspired, but in the memories of a kind, determined player who lived his dream until his final moments on the field. It was March 24, 2018, at the Deltaplex Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The G League's Grand Rapids Drive were playing their final regular season game against the Long Island Nets, with a playoff spot on the line. Zeke Upshaw, a 26-year-old shooting guard, was having a solid night with 11 points in 29 minutes. With just 47 seconds remaining, and his team leading 100-97. No one could have predicted the tragedy about to unfold. Along the baseline, away from the ball, Upshaw suddenly dropped face down to the court, his palms turned upward, his body motionless. For 6 crucial seconds, no one seemed to notice. Then one opposing player reacted, followed by another, until finally the referee's whistle stopped play. The crowd of nearly 2,000 fans fell silent, watching as a young man's life began slipping away. Before that moment, Upshaw had been living his basketball dream. After playing at Illinois State and then as a graduate transfer at Hofstra, he had worked his way into professional basketball. His three-point shooting percentage of 40.9% that season showed promise for a potential NBA Summer League invitation. Even if the NBA didn't call, there was talk of opportunities in Europe's top leagues. What happened next would expose a tragic failure in emergency response. Medical staff huddled around him but didn't check his pulse. No one turned him over. No one appeared to check if he was breathing. 2 minutes passed before EMTs walked, not rushed, onto the court with a stretcher. 7 critical minutes went by before CPR began in the ambulance. A defibrillator visible on the stretcher was never used. About 1,600 miles away in Henderson, Nevada, Upshaw's mother Jewel watched the horror unfold on a Facebook stream. His girlfriend Julia Turner, whom everyone called his fiancée because he planned to propose after the season, screamed on the phone to Jewel as they watched helplessly. Messages scrolled by on Facebook. Prayers for Zeke. Say a prayer for Zeke. The investigation revealed disturbing details. 9 months before his death, Upshaw had collapsed at a Las Vegas gym. Blood tests showed elevated troponin, a protein released when the heart is damaged. Despite this warning sign, he was cleared to play after an overnight hospital stay. His discharge papers simply stated, "You may resume your normal activities when you are feeling back to normal." 40 minutes after his collapse, Upshaw's heart finally restarted at the hospital, but it was too late. 2 days later, on March 26th, his mother made the heartbreaking decision to disconnect life support. The autopsy revealed he had suffered from heart disease that went undetected, despite 3 different heart screenings in the previous 16 months. His funeral drew over 1,000 people to Chicago's South Side. An alderman spoke, as did former U.S. Secretary of Education Arne Duncan. Upshaw was laid to rest at the legendary Oakwood Cemetery near Jesse Owens's grave, a final tribute to a young man who had been a success story, raised by a single mother and earning his way to professional basketball. Zeke Upshaw's death led to significant changes in the G League's medical protocols. His mother created the Zeke Upshaw Foundation to educate schools and athletic organizations about sudden cardiac arrest. Her message became simple but crucial. When someone collapses, assume it's a heart issue first. She receives monthly notifications about similar incidents, each one reminding her of that terrible night. The tragedy of Zeke Upshaw wasn't just about a promising athlete taken too soon. It was about systemic failures in emergency response and medical screening. His death exposed how those first few minutes in a cardiac emergency can mean the difference between life and death. While other athletes have been saved from similar collapses since then, Upshaw's story remains a sobering reminder of why proper medical protocols matter. His legacy lives on through the foundation that bears his name, working to ensure that when the next athlete collapses, someone will know exactly what to do. It was August 26, 1960, at the Rome Summer Olympics, where temperatures soared to 104 degrees Fahrenheit under an unforgiving Italian sun. Among the competitors was Knud Enemark Jensen, a 23-year-old Danish cyclist preparing for the grueling 62-mile team time trial. A rising talent, he had won the individual cycling Nordic Championship earlier that year. His ties to Olympic greatness ran deep. He was married to the niece of former Olympic gold medalist Henry Hansen. The Rome Olympics proved brutal for endurance athletes. The time trial course stretched across mountainous terrain with no shade, forcing cyclists to endure relentless heat for hours. Even before the race began, concerns swirled about the extreme weather conditions, yet 68 cyclists lined up at the start, determined to push through for Olympic glory. Jensen and his Danish teammates maintained a steady rhythm in the early stages of the race, but the heat soon took its toll. One of their teammates collapsed from heat exhaustion and dropped out. Under Olympic rules, all 3 remaining Danish cyclists needed to finish for the team to avoid disqualification. The pressure mounted as they continued their punishing ride. With just 5 miles to go, Jensen began showing signs of distress. He told his teammates he felt dizzy, his movements growing erratic. One of them doused him with water in an attempt to cool him down. For a moment he seemed to recover, but when they let go, he collapsed. The fall was devastating. Jensen struck his head on the pavement, fracturing his skull. Emergency personnel rushed him to a military tent near the finish line, but conditions inside were even worse. The temperature within the tent soared to 122 degrees Fahrenheit, offering no reprieve. Jensen never regained consciousness. Hours later, he was pronounced dead. The tragedy quickly sparked controversy. The Danish team's trainer, Olaf Jorgensen, admitted to giving Jensen and his teammates Ronja Koll a vasodilator used to widen blood vessels and increase circulation. This revelation fueled widespread speculation about possible amphetamine use. However, initial autopsy results found no traces of drugs in Jensen's system. The full autopsy, conducted by 3 Italian doctors, was never made public, adding to the mystery. Years later, one of the doctors claimed they had detected several substances, including amphetamines, but this was later denied by authorities. Official reports from both Danish and Olympic officials attributed Jensen's death to heat stroke and the skull fracture from his fall. Beyond the immediate controversy, Jensen's death had lasting consequences. In response, the International Olympic Committee established its medical commission in 1961, laying the foundation for modern sports drug testing. By 1968, both the Winter and Summer Olympics had implemented formal anti-doping measures. The military tent where Jensen spent his final moments became a symbol of the inadequate medical facilities at major sporting events. His case highlighted the need for better emergency response systems, particularly in extreme conditions. It was July 27, 1996, when the joyful spirit of the Atlanta Summer Olympics was shattered by a devastating act of domestic terrorism. That night, as thousands gathered in Centennial Olympic Park to celebrate the Games with music and festivities, a pipe bomb exploded, killing 2 people and injuring 111 others. Among those tragically lost was 44-year-old Alice Hawthorne, a devoted mother from Georgia, who had come to the park with her daughter to soak in the once-in-a-lifetime Olympic experience. What began as a night of unity and celebration ended in horror, forever altering the lives of those present and leaving a deep scar on the legacy of the Games. The 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta were envisioned as a grand celebration of athletic prowess and international unity, a moment where the world could come together to witness the pinnacle of human achievement. However, this vision was shattered by a horrific act of domestic terrorism that left an indelible mark on the history of the Games. On the night of July 27, 1996, as spectators gathered in Centennial Olympic Park to enjoy the festivities, a pipe bomb exploded, killing 2 people and injuring 111 others. Among the victims was Alice Hawthorne, a 44-year-old mother from Georgia, whose tragic death became a symbol of the human cost of senseless violence. Alice had brought her daughter to the park that night to take part in the joyful atmosphere of the Olympics. It was supposed to be a moment of bonding and celebration, but it ended in heartbreak. When the bomb detonated, shrapnel tore through the crowd and Alice was fatally struck. Her daughter survived, forced to witness the horrifying loss of her mother in what should have been a night of unity and joy. The pain of that night reverberated far beyond Atlanta, striking at the very heart of what the Games represent. In the immediate aftermath of the explosion, chaos reigned. The park, once filled with laughter and music, became a scene of panic and devastation. Emergency responders rushed in, trying to make sense of the destruction and save lives where they could. Amidst the turmoil, security guard Richard Jewell emerged as an unlikely hero. His quick actions in noticing the suspicious backpack and helping evacuate the area likely prevented an even greater loss of life. Yet in a cruel twist of fate, Jewell's heroism was soon overshadowed by suspicion. Wrongfully implicated in the bombing, he became the target of an intense media frenzy and an FBI investigation that would leave his reputation and life in tatters. It wasn't until October 1996 that Jewell was officially cleared by the FBI. His innocence acknowledged far too late to undo the damage. Meanwhile, the real perpetrator, Eric Rudolph, remained at large. Driven by extremist hatred against abortion and the U.S. government, Rudolph would go on to carry out additional bombings. His campaign of terror, a chilling reminder of the threat he posed. It would take nearly 7 years before he was finally captured in 2003, bringing long overdue justice for the lives he destroyed, including that of Alice Hawthorne. The bombing at Centennial Olympic Park serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of even the most joyous gatherings. It underscores the importance of vigilance, security, and the compassionate response of those who step forward in times of crisis. And it calls on us to remember victims like Alice Hawthorne, not just as statistics in a tragic event, but as individuals whose lives were filled with love, purpose, and hope. In honoring their memory, we strengthen our resolve to protect the spirit of unity that the Olympics strive to embody. On September 5, 1972, the Munich Olympics had entered their second week. The Olympic Village, designed to symbolize Germany's peaceful re-emergence, stood in stark contrast to the propaganda-fueled spectacle of the 1936 Berlin Games. But the illusion of harmony would soon be shattered. For David Berger, a 28-year-old American-Israeli weightlifter, the competition had ended days earlier. Though eliminated in the early rounds, he remained in the village to support his teammates, a decision that would ultimately seal his fate. David had grown up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, excelling in both academics and athletics. At Tulane University, he won an NCAA weightlifting title while maintaining honors status, later earning advanced degrees from Columbia University. His passion for the sport led him to emigrate to Israel in the early 1970s, where he quickly made a name for himself, winning silver at the 1971 Asian Games. Engaged to an Israeli student, he was building a future both in and beyond weightlifting. In the pre-dawn hours of September 5th, silence blanketed the Olympic Village, a cluster of low-rise apartment buildings housing athletes from around the world. The Israeli team resided at 31 Connollystrasse, a modest, white-walled complex with balconies overlooking the walkways below. Inside, some shared dormitory-style rooms, while others had small private spaces. Around 4:30 a.m., 8 armed members of Black September, a Palestinian militant group, scaled the perimeter fence and slipped into the village. Disguised as athletes, they carried duffel bags filled with weapons and moved swiftly, using stolen keys to infiltrate the Israeli quarters. The first to sense danger was Josef Gutfreund, a wrestling referee. A faint noise outside stirred him awake. Peering through the dimly lit hallway, he spotted masked men with rifles advancing toward the door. Instinct took over. He threw his weight against it, desperately trying to hold them back. The struggle was brief but valiant. Outnumbered and overpowered, he could only manage a warning shout before the intruders forced their way inside. The gunmen moved with deadly efficiency. Wrestling coach Moshe Weinberg charged at them, attempting to disarm one of the attackers. A gunshot rang out. He staggered back, wounded, but still defiant. Under duress, he was forced to lead the militants through the building in search of more Israelis. Hoping to save lives, he deliberately bypassed some doors, but his efforts could only go so far. Moments later, he was executed. Yosef Romano, another weightlifter, was next to fight back. He lunged at a gunman, grabbing for his weapon. A second militant opened fire, striking him down. His body was left in the hallway, a gruesome warning to the others. The remaining Israelis, including David, were rounded up, bound with rope, and crammed into a small room under armed guard. In the chaos, David had been shot in the shoulder. His wound remained untreated as the terrorists solidified their control. Their demands were clear: the release of 234 Palestinian prisoners. As the sun rose, the world awoke to the unfolding crisis. Television cameras broadcast images from the village, yet for hours, Olympic events continued, as if the horror beyond the stadium walls did not exist. Only later did officials suspend the games. West German authorities, unprepared for such an unprecedented hostage situation, scrambled for a response. They negotiated, offering the terrorists safe passage to Cairo in exchange for the athletes' release. A plan was hastily devised. At Fürstenfeldbruck Air Base, where the exchange would take place, police officers disguised as crew members would ambush the gunmen. But the operation unraveled before it even began. Determining the mission too risky, the officers abandoned their positions without engaging the attackers. The terrorists, along with their hostages, were transported from the Olympic Village to Fürstenfeldbruck via military helicopters. Upon arrival, the gunmen quickly realized they had been deceived. Enraged, they opened fire. Chaos erupted on the tarmac. One of the terrorists turned his rifle toward the helicopters where the Israeli hostages were restrained. David, already wounded, took 2 more bullets to the legs. Then, in a final horrific act, a terrorist threw a grenade into one of the helicopters. The explosion engulfed the cabin in flames. Trapped inside, David and his teammates perished from smoke inhalation and fire. All 11 Israeli hostages were killed. The Munich Games, intended to be a symbol of unity through sport, instead became a site of unimaginable tragedy. David's body was returned to Cleveland, where he was laid to rest in his hometown. His death led to the creation of the David Berger National Memorial, a 14-foot-tall sculpture of broken Olympic rings, symbolizing the interrupted games. 11 segments represent each of the fallen athletes, one slightly different, honoring David's unique journey from Ohio to Israel. It was July 14, 1912, in Stockholm, where the Summer Olympics were in full stride. The Games had drawn over 2,400 athletes from 28 nations, marking historic firsts: the introduction of electronic timing, Japan's debut as the first Asian competitor, and Portugal's first Olympic appearance. Among the Portuguese delegation was Francisco Lázaro, a 24-year-old marathon runner who carried the nation's flag in the opening ceremony. For Francisco, the Olympics represented the pinnacle of a journey built on endurance and determination. Born in Lisbon, he worked as a carpenter and balanced his training with shifts at an automobile factory. Running for SL Benfica, he had won 3 national marathon titles, earning his place in Stockholm. This was his chance to prove himself on the world's biggest stage. That morning, as temperatures climbed, Francisco made a fateful decision. Following a common practice of the time, he covered his body with sweat, a thick layer of animal fat, believing it would shield him from the sun and enhance his performance. The marathon, slightly shorter than today's standard at 25 miles, would push athletes to their limits under the scorching Swedish summer. Out of 95 registered runners, only 68 started the race, wary of the growing heat. Wearing number 518, Francisco maintained a steady pace through the early stages. At water stations, he paused briefly before pressing on. The unrelenting temperatures soon took a toll. 32 runners dropped out as the race wore on. What Francisco didn't realize was that the sweat coating his skin was preventing his body from sweating, while other runners perspired freely, allowing their bodies to regulate temperature. He was unknowingly trapping heat. As the miles passed, his core temperature began to rise dangerously. At the 19-mile mark, Francisco suddenly collapsed. Race officials rushed to his side, finding him delirious and severely overheated. His body temperature had soared to 41 degrees Celsius, a level far beyond human endurance. Medical staff worked frantically to cool him down, but his condition continued to deteriorate. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, where doctors fought through the night to stabilize him. Despite their efforts, Francisco succumbed to heat stroke at 6 a.m. on July 15th, becoming the first athlete to die during an Olympic event. The tragedy cast a shadow over the Games. The following weekend, 23,000 spectators gathered at Stockholm's Olympic Stadium for a memorial service in his honor. The Olympic community, stunned by the loss, raised funds for his widow, collecting the equivalent of $120,000 in modern currency. In Sweden, a monument was placed at the marathon's turning point in Sollentuna, marking the place where Francisco had passed just hours before his collapse. In Lisbon, the impact was deeply felt. A street was named after him, and CF Benfica, one of Portugal's most prominent football clubs, honored him by naming their home stadium in his memory. What was meant to be a moment of national pride had turned into a somber reflection on the dangers of endurance sports. The autopsy confirmed the tragic irony of Francisco's preparation. The very substance meant to protect him had sealed his fate, preventing perspiration and causing a fatal imbalance in his body fluids and electrolytes. His final words before the race, "I will win or die," proved prophetic, though not in the way he had imagined. His death led to increased awareness of heat-related dangers in long-distance running. Future generations of Olympic athletes would benefit from improved safety measures, hydration strategies, and a better understanding of thermoregulation. Yet for Portugal, Francisco Lázaro remains a symbol of both ambition and sacrifice, a man who gave everything in pursuit of his Olympic dream. It was March 4th, 1990, at Loyola Marymount's Gersten Pavilion in Los Angeles. The West Coast Conference Tournament semifinals were underway, and Hank Gathers, the Lions' unstoppable 6'7" forward, was doing what he did best, dominating the game. The crowd of 4,000 fans watched in awe as the 23-year-old soared through the air for yet another spectacular play. Just days earlier, he had told a reporter, "I feel great. I'm in the best shape of my life." With 13:34 left in the first half, Gathers caught a perfect alley-oop pass from teammate Terrell Lowry just past half court. He slammed home the dunk with his trademark power, giving his team a 25-13 lead over Portland. He slapped hands with Lowry, celebrating what would be his final basket. As he reached mid-court to set up on defense, Gathers took 2 lateral steps to his right and collapsed. The impact of his 220-pound frame hitting the hardwood echoed through the suddenly silent arena. The silence that engulfed Gersten Pavilion was deafening. Just months earlier, in December 1989, Gathers had collapsed during another game against UC Santa Barbara and was diagnosed with an abnormal heartbeat. Doctors prescribed beta blockers, but the medication made him feel sluggish on the court. His game suffered, and he gradually reduced his dosage, telling reporters his medication was almost down to nothing. Before his heart condition, Gathers was a force of nature. In the 1988-89 season, he led the nation in both scoring, 32.7 points, and rebounding, 13.7, becoming only the second player in NCAA Division I history to accomplish this feat. His team averaged an incredible 122.4 points per game, a record that still stands today. In one memorable game against LSU, he scored 48 points against future NBA star Shaquille O'Neal. He was projected to be a first-round NBA draft pick. Medical personnel rushed to his aid as his mother Lucille and aunt watched in horror from the stands. Gathers struggled to get up, briefly rising to his hands and knees before medical staff told him to stay down. He lost consciousness shortly after. Despite immediate CPR efforts and being rushed to nearby Daniel Freeman Marina Hospital, Gathers was pronounced dead at 6:55 p.m. The cause? Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the same heart condition that had claimed other athletes' lives. His death led to significant changes in sports medicine. Within 5 years, teams began carrying defibrillators as standard equipment. When Buffalo Bills player Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field in 2023, the immediate medical response, learned from Gathers' tragedy, saved his life. His best friend Bo Kimble said, "Hank's death revolutionized the entire sports medicine industry." The Lions, led by Kimble, would make an emotional run to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. In a touching tribute, Kimble shot his first free throw of each game left-handed in honor of his southpaw teammate, making each one as tears flowed throughout the arenas. They set tournament records, scoring 149 points against defending champion Michigan, but fell short of the Final Four. Hank Gathers' story remains one of basketball's most tragic moments, a reminder that even the strongest athletes aren't invincible. His legacy lives on not just in the record books or the improved medical protocols that protect athletes today, but in the memories of those who witnessed his extraordinary talent and infectious spirit. As Kimble would later say, will he be forgotten? Absolutely not. It was December 2, 2005, on Oahu's North Shore, Hawaii. Malik Joyeux, a 25-year-old Tahitian surfer known as Petit Prince, paddled out at the legendary Banzai Pipeline. The waves were breaking at 8 feet, modest by pipeline standards, but still powerful enough to demand respect. The morning was beautiful, with clear skies and perfect conditions that had drawn dozens of the world's best surfers into the lineup. No one could have imagined that within hours, the surfing world would be mourning the loss of one of its most fearless big wave riders. Born in Moorea, French Polynesia, Joyeux had surfing in his blood. He began riding waves at just 8 years old, quickly developing a reputation for his fearlessness in heavy surf. Standing 5 feet 7 inches and weighing 150 pounds, Joyeux wasn't physically imposing, but his courage was immeasurable. By his early 20s, he had established himself as one of the premier surfers at Teahupu, Tahiti's infamous wave known for its thick hollow barrels breaking over a shallow reef. In 2003, Joyeux cemented his place in surfing history by winning the Billabong XXL Tube of the Year award for an impossible barrel at Pipeline. The following year, he appeared on the cover of Surfer magazine riding a monstrous wave at Teahupu, an image that became iconic in the surfing community. Despite his growing fame, Malik remained humble and kind, known for his infectious smile and generous spirit. That fateful December morning, Joyeux was among approximately 60 surfers vying for waves at Pipeline. The spot is notorious for its dangerous conditions, powerful waves that break over a shallow, razor-sharp coral reef just feet below the surface. For surfers, the reward of riding Pipeline's perfect barrels comes with tremendous risk. Around 10:30 a.m., Joyeux paddled for a wave that photographer Bruno Lemos described as not even that big for him. As Joyeux dropped in, something went wrong. The wave's thick lip came crashing down directly on top of him, driving him deep underwater. The force was so violent that it snapped his surfboard in half and tore the leash from his ankle. When Joyeux failed to surface, panic spread through the lineup. Surfers began searching frantically, diving underwater between sets to look for their friend. Lifeguards joined the search, but the powerful currents and poor visibility made it nearly impossible to find him. Approximately 10 minutes later, surfers spotted Joyeux's body floating in a nearby break. They quickly paddled him to shore, where lifeguards attempted CPR, but it was too late. Malik Joyeux was pronounced dead on the beach, becoming the 11th known fatality at Pipeline. As word spread, dozens of surfers paddled to shore and formed a circle on the beach, holding hands in prayer. The surfing community, known for its tight-knit nature, was devastated by the loss of such a beloved figure. Captain Bodo van der Leiden of the Ocean Safety Division later told reporters he was a very experienced big wave surfer, highlighting the sobering reality that even the most skilled athletes aren't immune to the ocean's power. Joyeux's death sent shockwaves through the surfing world, coming just months before the Pipeline Masters, the sport's most prestigious competition. Many surfers competed with heavy hearts, dedicating their performances to their fallen friend. Malik Joyeux's legacy lives on in the surfing community. He is remembered not just for his extraordinary courage in massive waves, but for his humility and joy. His approach to surfing, fearless yet respectful of the ocean's power, continues to inspire a new generation of big wave surfers. Though his life was cut tragically short, his impact on the sport remains immeasurable. It was February 22, 1992, at Les Arcs, France, where the Winter Olympics were in their final days. Among the athletes preparing for competition was Nicolas Bochatai, a 27-year-old Swiss speed skier and carpenter. Just days earlier, he had reached an impressive 130 miles per hour in qualifying, placing 13th. Now, he was gearing up for his final practice run before the speed skiing demonstration event. Speed skiing, though not an official Olympic sport, had captured attention for its sheer intensity. Athletes, wrapped in aerodynamic suits, raced down steep slopes at speeds exceeding 120 miles per hour. Nicolas came from a family deeply rooted in skiing. His aunt, Fernanda Bochatai, had won bronze in the 1968 Winter Olympics giant slalom. For him, the sport was both tradition and passion. That morning, around 9:30 a.m., Nicolas joined his teammate Pierre-Yves Joran and several American skiers for a warm-up session. They opted for a public slope next to the official speed skiing course, a common practice for competitors testing their equipment. The group had already made several runs, using a small bump in the slope to catch air and adjust their form. The conditions seemed ideal. The morning air was crisp, visibility clear. Nicolas, wearing slalom skis instead of his specialized speed skis, took his turn. As he approached the familiar bump, he gained speed and lifted off. But what he didn't see was the snow grooming machine positioned just beyond the hill. The collision was immediate and catastrophic. Traveling at high velocity, Nicolas struck the snowcat upon landing, his body slamming into the machine's metal structure. The impact was concentrated on his upper body, with his head taking the brunt of the force. The sheer speed at which he was moving left no chance for survival. He suffered massive head trauma and severe internal injuries, dying almost instantly. His helmet, designed for aerodynamics rather than full impact protection, provided little defense against the crushing blow. His teammates, watching from different vantage points on the slope, rushed to the scene, but there was nothing they could do. Controversy soon followed. The Swiss team argued that the snow grooming machine had been parked behind the hill without warning signals. However, Jean-Albert Corrand, Director General of COJO, insisted the vehicle had been moving uphill with both a siren and flashing lights activated. The conflicting accounts only deepened the sense of tragedy. Despite the morning's events, the speed skiing finals proceeded as scheduled, yet the competition unfolded under the weight of loss, as Nicolas became the third athlete to die at a Winter Olympics. His name joined British luger Kazimierz Kai Skrzypewski and Australian skier Ross Milne, both of whom had perished at the 1964 Innsbruck Games. Tragically, Nicolas's accident was not the first of its kind. 4 years earlier, During the 1988 Winter Olympics in Calgary, Dr. Jörg Oberhammer, an Austrian ski team doctor, met a similar fate. While skiing recreationally, he collided with another skier, lost balance, and was pulled under a snow grooming machine. The vehicle, in motion at the time, ran over him, causing immediate fatal injuries. Despite safety measures implemented after Oberhammer's death, Nicholas's accident proved that such tragedies could still occur. For the Olympic community, the accident underscored concerns about athlete safety, particularly on public slopes during competition periods. The fact that Nicholas had been skiing recreationally, rather than in an official training session, raised questions about the precautions in place. The tragedy played a role in speed skiing's exclusion from future Olympic programs. Nicholas left behind a wife and 2 young children. His death resonated deeply in Switzerland, where he had been the national speed skiing champion in 1991. The loss of such a talented athlete, especially one from a family with Olympic ties, struck at the heart of Swiss sports. It was February 12, 2010, at the Whistler Sliding Center, where the ice glistened under the Canadian morning light. Hours before the Winter Olympics opening ceremony, 21-year-old Nodar Kumaritashvili prepared for his final training run. The Georgian luger had already completed 25 runs on the track, yet its reputation loomed over competitors. Whistler was the fastest luge course ever built, and even the most experienced sliders approached it with caution. Nodar had spent years preparing for this moment. He was born in Bakuriani, Georgia, a mountain town where luge was more than just a sport, it was a family tradition. His grandfather, Aleko, had pioneered the sport in Soviet Georgia, building the country's first luge run in 1970. His father, David, had been a USSR youth champion, and his uncle, Felix, headed the Georgian Luge Federation. At 13, Nodar began training under their guidance, balancing intense practice with his economic studies at Georgian Technical University. His Olympic debut was supposed to be a proud continuation of that legacy. Long before the Games began, concerns about the Whistler track had surfaced. Speeds exceeded expectations, with some runs reaching 95 miles per hour, 6 miles per hour faster than originally designed. Josef Fendt, president of the International Luge Federation, had warned track officials a year earlier about the alarming speeds, but the course remained unchanged. That morning, Nodar launched from the men's start, as he had many times before. His sled carved through the ice with precision, reaching a speed of 89 miles per hour. He maneuvered the early turns with control, but as he neared the final curve, something went wrong. His sled wobbled, lifting slightly off the track. In a fraction of a second, he lost control. Nodar was thrown from his sled, hurtling off the track and into a steel support pole near the finish line. The impact was catastrophic. He suffered severe head and neck trauma, rendering him unconscious on impact. Medical teams rushed to his side, performing CPR in a desperate attempt to revive him before airlifting him to a nearby hospital. 50 minutes after the crash, Nodar was pronounced dead, the first luge fatality in Olympic competition since 1975. The news stunned the Olympic community. The Georgian delegation, devastated by the loss, considered withdrawing from the Games. Instead, they chose to compete in Nodar's honor. That evening, during the opening ceremony, the 7 remaining Georgian athletes marched with black armbands, leaving an empty space in their formation. The Olympic and Canadian flags were lowered to half-mast, and a moment of silence marked the tragedy. In the aftermath, track officials scrambled to make adjustments. The walls at Curve 16's exit were raised, and the ice profile was altered. The men's start was moved to the women's position to reduce speeds, though Olympic officials insisted the changes were not for safety reasons, but to accommodate the emotional toll on the athletes. However, the International Luge Federation's later report confirmed what many had feared. The track had been faster than intended. Nodar's body was returned to Georgia, where thousands gathered for his funeral. In Bakuriani, the street where he had grown up was renamed in his memory. Felix Loch, the German luger who won gold that year, had his medal melted down and reformed into 2 discs, one of which was engraved with Nodar's image and given to his family. His death forced changes in luge track design. The course built for the 2014 Sochi Olympics featured 2 uphill sections to slow speeds, making runs roughly 10 miles per hour slower than Whistler. While these adjustments made the sport safer, they came at an immeasurable cost. For Nodar's family and his country, The games that were meant to be his greatest triumph became a painful reminder of all that was lost. It was May 6, 2016, at the Dinamo Stadium in Bucharest, Romania. The fans called it the hole in the ground. And on this evening, it would become the site of one of football's most preventable tragedies. Patrick Ekeng, a 26-year-old midfielder from Cameroon, had just come on as a substitute for Dinamo Bucharest in the 70th minute against Viitorul. The score was tied 3-3, and Ekeng was eager to make an impact. 7 minutes after stepping onto the pitch, Ekeng was jogging near the center circle when he suddenly collapsed. There was no contact, no warning. He simply fell backwards, his knees buckling beneath him. The stadium fell silent as players frantically waved for medical assistance. His teammate Sergiu Hanca reached him first, hearing what he described as something like the respiration of a pig, the sound of hypoxic gasping as Ekeng's brain starved of oxygen. Before that moment, Ekeng had fought his way through European football's lower ranks, starting in Cameroon on dusty pitches in Yaoundé, where his mother, a preacher, would sometimes cheer him on from the sidelines. He had played in France, Switzerland, and Spain before landing in Romania. Dinamo was supposed to be his chance to rebuild his career, earning around $5,000 per month. Just weeks earlier, he had scored his first goal for the club in a Romanian Cup semi-final against their rivals Steaua Bucharest. What happened next would shock the football world. The ambulance crew, later investigated for negligence, took nearly 3 minutes to reach Ekeng. The defibrillator they carried had a dead battery. Each minute that passed reduced his survival chances by 7%. Crystal Palace fan Stephen Carpenter, visiting as a football tourist, watched in disbelief as medical staff put aside the distinctive red defibrillator case, thinking it wasn't that serious. By the time he reached Floreasca Hospital just blocks from the stadium, it was too late. At 11:25 p.m., after showing no electrical activity in his heart for 5 full minutes, doctors pronounced him dead from cardiac arrest. The entire incident had been captured on television, leaving viewers and teammates in shock. The investigation revealed a cascade of failures. The private ambulance service, Pulse, had 14 out of 15 vehicles carrying dead defibrillator batteries. Phone calls intercepted by authorities caught staff discussing how to cover up their negligence. The doctor, Elena Mihaila Duta, was later given an 18-month suspended jail sentence and ordered to pay $227,000 in damages. She became the face of a systemic failure that cost a young athlete his life. Ekeng left behind a pregnant wife, Natalie, and another child. His death echoed tragically with Cameroon's football history. In 2003, Marc-Vivien Foé had died similarly during a Confederations Cup match. Dinamo Bucharest retired Ekeng's number 14 jersey, but the real tribute came in the form of stricter medical regulations in Romanian football. The aftermath revealed more painful truths. His January 2016 medical screening had missed any heart abnormalities, though experts later noted that such conditions are notoriously difficult to detect. His autopsy report was criticized by international medical experts for claiming he had 3 rare heart conditions simultaneously, something nearly impossible. Back in Yaoundé, Ekeng's friends hung a banner on the incomplete house he had been building. "A lion does not die, he sleeps. Rest in peace." His story became a grim reminder of how critical proper medical care is in professional sports. As his friend Salif Nogo would later say, he died because people didn't do their jobs. In the end, Patrick Ekeng's death wasn't just about a footballer who died too young. It was about a system that failed him and the changes his death forced upon the sport. It was June 26, 2003, at the Stade de Gerland in Lyon, France. The FIFA Confederations Cup semi-final between Cameroon and Colombia was drawing to a close. The stadium was alive with excitement as Cameroon led 1-0, and Marc-Vivien Foé, their powerful 28-year-old midfielder, was doing what he loved most, dominating the center of the field. Before that fateful day, Foé had built himself into one of Africa's most respected players. Standing at 6'2", he was an imposing figure who had conquered both the English Premier League and French Ligue 1. He played for clubs like West Ham United, Manchester City, and Lyon, becoming a fan favorite wherever he went. His teammates called him Marco, and his infectious laugh could often be heard echoing through the changing rooms. That summer afternoon in Lyon, with just 72 minutes on the clock, television cameras captured a moment that would haunt football forever. Foé was jogging innocuously near the center circle, no other player around him. Suddenly, without warning or contact, he collapsed. The way he fell sent immediate shivers through the stadium. This wasn't a normal football injury. Medical staff rushed onto the field as teammates looked on with growing concern. They attempted to resuscitate him right there on the pitch before carrying him on a stretcher to the medical facilities beneath the stadium. For 45 agonizing minutes, doctors fought to restart his heart, but Marco would never get up again. The news of his death sent shockwaves through the football world. His teammates, who had been celebrating their victory in the dressing room, were devastated when Captain Rigobert Song delivered the tragic news. "Marco, Marco," he cried, telling them their friend was gone. Even the team's German manager, Winfried Schäfer, broke down when he saw Foé's mother and wife crying by his body. 2 autopsies would later reveal that Foé had been suffering from hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a condition where the heart muscle becomes abnormally thick. Medical experts explained that people with this condition are 3 to 5 times more likely to suffer cardiac arrest during intense physical activity. The cruelest part? There were usually no warning signs until it was too late. The tragedy deepened when details of Foé's personal life emerged. He had been building a sports academy in his hometown of Yaoundé, sending money home each month to fund its construction. It was meant to be his legacy, a gift to help young Cameroonian players follow in his footsteps. Instead, it became his final resting place, with his body buried on the site of the unfinished complex. The impact of Foé's death was immediate and lasting. FIFA's medical protocols were overhauled, with improved cardiac screening and pitch-side emergency procedures becoming mandatory. Manchester City retired his number 23 shirt, while Lyon named a street after him. The football world united in grief during the Confederations Cup final between France and Cameroon, where French star Thierry Henry was seen in tears before kickoff. Perhaps most poignantly, Cameroon's national team was never quite the same. After winning the African Cup of Nations in 2000 and 2002 with Foé as their midfield general, they haven't won the tournament since his passing. His death marked not just the loss of a player, but the end of an era for Cameroonian football. Today, Foé's statue stands outside his abandoned academy in Yaoundé, a silent reminder of unfulfilled dreams. His nephew, Nama Mvogo, still visits weekly to clean his uncle's grave, feeling the weight of what he calls abandonment. The marble block marking Foé's final resting place remains the only well-maintained part of what should have been his lasting gift to Cameroonian football. Marc-Vivien Foé's story serves as a heartbreaking reminder that even the strongest athletes aren't immortal. His death changed football forever, leading to improved medical care that has likely saved other players' lives. But for those who knew him, who heard his laugh in the dressing room or saw his powerful runs across the midfield, no amount of positive change can fill the void left by his passing. It was March 29, 2008 in Zadar, Croatia. Hrvoje Čustić, a talented 24-year-old winger for NK Zadar, was doing what he loved most, playing soccer in front of passionate hometown fans. The match against HNK Sabalia had just begun, and the energy in the stadium was electric. No one could have imagined that within minutes, a routine play would lead to one of soccer's most heartbreaking tragedies. Čustić's journey in soccer began in his hometown of Zadar, where he joined the local club in 2000. His skill and dedication earned him a move to NK Zagreb in 2005, but the pull of home brought him back to Zadar in 2007. Known for his speed and determination, Hrvoje was a fan favorite, a local boy representing his city with pride. That fateful Saturday started like any other match day. Just minutes into the game, Čustić chased after a loose ball near the sideline. As he battled with an opposing player, neither focused on anything but gaining possession. The intensity of their challenge sent Čustić sliding off the field of play. What made this particular stadium dangerous was what lay beyond the touchline, a concrete wall positioned just 6 feet from the edge of the playing field. As Čustić slid off the pitch, his momentum carried him directly into this unforgiving barrier. The sickening sound of impact silenced the crowd as Hrvoje's head collided violently with the concrete. Medical staff rushed onto the field immediately. Players from both teams stood in shock, some turning away, unable to watch as doctors worked frantically to stabilize him. The ambulance arrived quickly, and Čustić was rushed to Zadar General Hospital, hospital, where he underwent emergency surgery for a severe brain injury. For 5 days, the entire city of Zadar held its breath. Prayer vigils formed outside the hospital as fans, teammates, and family members hoped for a miracle. Čustić's condition initially appeared stable after surgery, giving everyone a glimmer of hope. But on April 2nd, his body temperature began rising rapidly due to a post-surgical infection. Despite the doctor's best efforts, Hrvoje Čustić passed away on April 3rd, 2008. The news devastated the Croatian soccer community and beyond. The Croatian Football Federation postponed all league matches for the following weekend as a mark of respect. An estimated 10,000 people attended his funeral, reflecting the impact he had on his community. His NK Zadar teammates served as pallbearers, carrying their friend on his final journey. The tragedy sparked important conversations about player safety in soccer stadiums worldwide. The concrete wall that claimed Čustić's life represented a hazard that should never have existed so close to the field of play. His death led to safety reviews at many stadiums, with particular attention paid to the areas surrounding the pitch. Years later, Hrvoje's memory lives on in Croatian soccer. His former teammate and close friend Danijel Subasic, who became Croatia's national team goalkeeper, paid tribute to Čustić after Croatia's victory over Denmark in the 2018 World Cup. After saving 3 penalties in the shootout, Subasic lifted his jersey to reveal a shirt bearing Hrvoje's image. Though FIFA issued Subasic a warning for the gesture, it showed how deeply Čustić's memory continues to resonate with those who knew him. When asked about his tribute during a press conference, Subasic broke down in tears, unable to speak about his friend, demonstrating that even a decade later, the wounds remain raw. Hrvoje Čustić's story reminds us that even in the beautiful game, tragedy can strike in an instant, forever changing lives and leaving an indelible mark on the sport's history. It was September 17, 2016, when Iranian Paralympic cyclist Bahman Golbarnejad was competing in the men's C45 road race at the Rio de Janeiro Paralympic Games. A seasoned athlete and war veteran, Golbarnejad was known for his perseverance and passion for cycling. In his mind, the race represented not just athletic competition, but a personal triumph over adversity. But nothing could have prepared him for what happened next. In the world of Paralympic sports, few stories resonate as deeply as that of Bahman Golbarnejad, an Iranian athlete whose life was a testament to resilience and the pursuit of excellence against all odds. Born on June 12, 1968, in the bustling city of Abadan, Iran, Golbarnejad's journey was one of overcoming profound adversity. As a young man, he was thrust into the harsh realities of the Iran-Iraq War, where he served his country with valor. It was during this tumultuous period that he suffered a life-altering injury, losing his left leg to a landmine. Yet, rather than succumbing to despair, this setback ignited a fierce determination within him to excel in the world of sports. Golbarnejad's initial foray into athletics was through powerlifting, a sport that demands immense strength and discipline. He quickly rose to prominence, amassing an impressive collection of 12 gold medals and 1 silver in international competitions. His success in powerlifting was a testament to his unwavering dedication and indomitable spirit. However, fate had other plans, and a shoulder injury forced him to pivot to a new challenge: cycling. In 2006, he embraced this new sport with the same tenacity that had defined his powerlifting career, proving that his resolve was unbreakable. Cycling, with its demands for endurance, speed, and strategy, presented a new set of challenges for Golbarnejad. Yet, he approached it with the same vigor and determination that had characterized his previous athletic endeavors. His training regimen was rigorous, and he quickly adapted to the nuances of the sport, demonstrating a remarkable ability to overcome physical limitations and push the boundaries of what was possible. By 2012, Golbarnejad had qualified for the London Paralympics, marking the beginning of his journey on the world stage. His participation was not just a personal achievement, but a symbol of hope and perseverance for many. Representing Iran, he carried the aspirations of a nation that had seen its share of struggles and triumphs. His presence at the Paralympics was a testament to the power of sport to transcend political and cultural barriers, uniting people in a shared celebration of human potential. 4 years later, he stood as the sole Iranian cyclist at the Rio 2016 Paralympics, a testament to his dedication, skill, and the unyielding support of his nation. Tragically, it was during these games that Gulbarnejad's life came to a sudden and heartbreaking end. On September 17, 2016, while competing in the men's C4-5 road cycling event, he suffered a fatal crash. The accident occurred on a mountainous stretch of the course, a testament to the challenging nature of the event and the risks inherent in competitive cycling. His death was a somber reminder of the inherent risks athletes face in pursuit of their dreams. The Paralympic community, along with the world, mourned the loss of a true sportsman, whose legacy of courage and perseverance continues to inspire countless others. In the wake of his passing, tributes poured in from around the globe, honoring his contributions to sport and his indomitable spirit. Gulbarnejad's story is not just one of personal triumph and tragedy, but also a reflection of the broader challenges faced by athletes with disabilities. His journey from a war-torn country to the global stage of the Paralympics highlights the transformative power of sport to transcend barriers and unite people from diverse backgrounds. His untimely death serves as a poignant call to action for improved safety measures and support for athletes, ensuring that their pursuit of excellence is not marred by preventable tragedies. In remembering Bahman Gulbarnejad, we honor not only his achievements but also his spirit, a spirit that embodies the very essence of the Paralympic movement. His life and legacy remind us of the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring impact of those who dare to dream beyond their circumstances. As we reflect on his journey, we are inspired to continue advocating for a world where all athletes can compete safely and with dignity, ensuring that their stories of triumph and perseverance continue to illuminate the path for future generations. In the years since his passing, efforts have been made to improve safety standards in Paralympic cycling and other sports, ensuring that athletes are better protected as they strive for greatness. Gulbarnejad's story serves as a powerful reminder of the need for vigilance and innovation in sports safety, a legacy that continues to influence the world of athletics today. As we honor Bahman Gulbarnejad, we are reminded of the profound impact that one individual can have on the world. His journey from the battlefields of Iran to the global stage of the Paralympics is a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome adversity and achieve greatness. His legacy lives on in the hearts of those he inspired, a beacon of hope and resilience for all who dare to dream. It was October 23, 2010, in Fujairah, United Arab Emirates. Fran Crippen, a 26-year-old American swimming star, was competing in the FINA Open Water 10-kilometer World Cup. The race began early that morning, with dozens of the world's best swimmers diving into the warm waters of the Persian Gulf. No one could have imagined that by the end of the day, the swimming world would be mourning the loss of one of its brightest talents. Born in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania, Crippen came from a family of swimmers. All three of his sisters were accomplished in the sport. His oldest sister, Maddie, had even competed in the 2000 Olympics. Standing 6 feet 2 inches with a powerful build, Fran was a natural in the water. After a successful college career at the University of Virginia, where he was an 11-time All-American, Crippen turned his focus to open water swimming. By 2010, he had established himself as America's premier open water swimmer, winning bronze at the 2009 World Championships in the 10K event. Though he narrowly missed qualifying for the 2008 Beijing Olympics, Crippen had his sights set firmly on the 2012 London Games. The race in the UAE was just another step toward that dream. That fateful day, conditions were brutal. The water temperature was reported at 84 degrees, though many swimmers later claimed it felt closer to 90 degrees. The air temperature soared to nearly 100 degrees, creating a dangerous combination for athletes pushing their bodies to the limit in a 2-hour race. As the swimmers made their way around the triangular course, several began showing signs of heat-related distress. Christine Jennings, an American teammate, had to be pulled from the water and hospitalized. Others complained of disorientation and extreme fatigue. Despite this, race officials made no adjustments. About 2/3 of the way through the race, Crippen told his coach he wasn't feeling well. In typical fashion for the determined athlete, he pushed on, but something was terribly wrong. When the race concluded, Crippen was nowhere to be found. His absence at the finish line initially caused confusion rather than alarm. It was his teammate and friend Alex Meyer who first raised the alert, insisting that Crippen was missing. As officials scrambled to organize a search, Meyer and other swimmers dove back into the water to look for their colleague. The search was chaotic and disorganized. There were no lifeguards stationed along the course, no safety boats monitoring the swimmers, and no emergency protocols in place. 2 hours after the race ended, Crippen's body was found by deep-sea divers, just 400 meters from the finish line near the final buoy. He was 30 feet underwater. The swimming world was devastated. An investigation revealed multiple failures by race organizers. There had been inadequate safety personnel, no proper monitoring system, and no contingency plans for emergencies. The extreme heat had likely caused Crippen to suffer heat exhaustion, leading to unconsciousness and drowning. Crippen's former coach, Dick Schulberg, was outspoken about the tragedy. "FINA dropped the ball," he said. "They approved this event to be an Olympic event, but they never took the next step to protect the athletes." The German winner of the race, Thomas Lurs, echoed these sentiments. "These are very hot conditions for swimming," he said after the event, while Russian swimmer Evgeny Dratsev admitted he had never competed in such warm conditions before. Crippen's death sparked major reforms in open water swimming. FINA implemented new safety regulations, including temperature limits for competitions, mandatory safety boats, and GPS tracking for swimmers. His family established the Fran Crippen Elevation Foundation to advocate for athlete safety and support promising swimmers. Fran Crippen's legacy extends far beyond his achievements in the water. His tragic death forced the swimming world to confront serious safety issues that had been overlooked for too long. Today, open water swimmers compete under much stricter safety protocols, a bittersweet tribute to an athlete who loved his sport but paid the ultimate price for its inadequacies. It was 564 BC when the ancient Olympic Games bore witness to one of the most extraordinary and tragic moments in their storied history. Aricion of Phigalia, a renowned pancratiast and two-time Olympic champion, entered the arena for what would be his final match during the 54th Olympiad. Pancration, a brutal fusion of wrestling and boxing, was the ultimate test of an athlete's strength, strategy, and resilience. Known for his relentless spirit and exceptional skill, Aricion had already etched his name into Olympic lore, but it was on this fateful day that his legend would be immortalized. Locked in a fierce and life-threatening struggle, as his opponent tightened a deadly chokehold, Aricion summoned his last reserves of strength to dislocate his adversary's toe, forcing a submission even as he succumbed to the hold himself. The 54th Olympiad in 564 BC would be his last, but it would also cement his legacy in the history of the Games. In a dramatic and fateful match, Aricion found himself locked in a deadly embrace with his opponent. The stakes were high, and the tension in the arena was palpable. As his adversary tightened a chokehold, Aricion, on the brink of unconsciousness, executed a final, desperate maneuver. With a surge of determination, he dislocated his opponent's toe, forcing him to submit even as Aricion succumbed to the choke. In a remarkable decision, the judges crowned Aricion the victor posthumously, honoring his fighting spirit and skill. This decision was not merely a recognition of his technical prowess, but also a tribute to the courage and resilience that defined his career. Aricion's story has endured through the ages, a testament to the ancient Greek ideal of glory and competition, even in death. His legacy is immortalized in the annals of Olympic history, a reminder of the sacrifices made in the pursuit of greatness. Aricion's tale is not just a story of personal valor, but also a reflection of the cultural values of ancient Greece, where honor and glory were paramount. The Greeks revered their athletes as heroes, and the Olympic Games were a sacred event that celebrated the human spirit's capacity for excellence. Aricion's posthumous victory highlights the respect and admiration for athletes who embody the spirit of competition, even in the face of death. The story of Aricion has been passed down through generations, inspiring countless athletes and serving as a symbol of the enduring power of the Olympic spirit. His name is etched in history as a paragon of dedication and bravery, a reminder that true victory is not always measured by life alone, but by the legacy one leaves behind. In the context of the ancient Olympics, Aricion's story also underscores the physical and mental demands placed on athletes of the time. Pancration was a sport that pushed competitors to their limits, and Arichion's ultimate sacrifice is a testament to the extreme challenges faced by those who sought glory in the arena. His story serves as a poignant reminder of the risks inherent in the pursuit of excellence and the profound impact of those who dare to push the boundaries of human potential. In modern times, Arichion's story continues to resonate, serving as an inspiration for athletes who strive to overcome their own challenges. His tale is a reminder that the pursuit of greatness often requires sacrifice, and that true victory is achieved not only through physical triumph, but through the legacy one leaves behind. As we honor Arichion, we celebrate the enduring power of the Olympic spirit and the timeless values that continue to inspire athletes around the world. It was February 25, 1988, when the Calgary Winter Olympics, a celebration of athletic prowess amid icy peaks and crisp alpine air, was interrupted by a sudden and harrowing incident. On the slopes where the men's giant slalom event was underway, Dr. Jörg Oberhammer, a highly respected orthopedic specialist for the Austrian ski team, was navigating the mountain between competition runs. Known for his unwavering dedication to athlete care and his deep knowledge of sports medicine, Oberhammer had long been a trusted figure behind the scenes. But that day, a routine moment on the snow would take an unexpected and devastating turn, casting a pall over the spirit of the Games. On February 25, 1988, the serene beauty of the snow-covered slopes was shattered by a devastating accident. As the men's giant slalom event unfolded, Oberhammer, who was navigating the mountain between runs, collided with another skier. The impact sent him tumbling beneath a snow grooming machine, a tragic twist of fate that would claim his life. The accident cast a pall over the Games, a somber reminder of the inherent dangers faced by those who dedicate their lives to winter sports. The incident was witnessed by Swiss skiers Permin Zurbriggen and Martin Hangel, who were ascending the mountain on a chairlift at the time. The sight of their colleague and friend caught in such a tragic accident left a profound impact on them and the entire Olympic community. The loss of Dr. Oberhammer was felt deeply, a stark reminder of the unpredictable forces of nature that athletes and support staff alike must contend with in the pursuit of excellence. Dr. Oberhammer's death was not just a personal tragedy, but a moment of collective mourning for the Olympic family. His contributions to the sport were significant, having treated many of the top athletes in the skiing world. His expertise and care had helped countless competitors achieve their dreams, and his absence was keenly felt by all who knew him. The incident underscored the critical importance of safety measures and vigilance in the high-stakes environment of the Winter Olympics. In the wake of the tragedy, the Olympic community came together to honor Dr. Oberhammer's memory. Tributes poured in from around the world, celebrating his dedication to the sport and the athletes he served. His legacy was one of compassion, skill, and an unwavering commitment to the well-being of those under his care. As the Games continued, his spirit was remembered in the hearts of those who knew him, a guiding light in a time of darkness. The loss of Dr. Oberhammer also served as a catalyst for renewed discussions on safety protocols in winter sports. The incident highlighted the need for comprehensive risk management strategies to protect athletes and support staff from the unpredictable dangers of the mountain environment. As the Olympic community reflected on the tragedy, there was a collective resolve to ensure that such incidents would be prevented in the future, safeguarding the spirit of the Games and the lives of those who participate. As we remember Dr. Jörg Oberhammer, we are reminded of the delicate balance between the pursuit of greatness and the risks inherent in that journey. His story is a testament to the courage and dedication of those who work behind the scenes, supporting athletes in their quest for excellence. His legacy lives on in the hearts of those he touched, a symbol of the enduring spirit of the Winter Olympics and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. In honoring Dr. Oberhammer, we celebrate not only his contributions to the sport, but also the values he embodied: compassion, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. His story serves as a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made by those who support the athletes, ensuring that the Olympic flame continues to burn brightly, a beacon of hope and unity for all who dare to dream. It was October 13, 2008 in Chekhov, a small city just outside Moscow. The Ice Hockey Center 2004, a modest arena holding just 3,300 fans, was alive with the sounds of sticks hitting ice and crowds cheering. For the fans who came to watch Avangard Omsk take on Vityaz, this seemed like any other Continental Hockey League game. No one could have known they were about to witness one of hockey's most tragic moments. The air was electric that evening as 19-year-old Alexei Cherepanov, nicknamed the Siberian Express, took to the ice alongside his teammate, NHL legend Jaromir Jagr. Cherepanov was everything a team could want in a young star. Talented, charismatic, with a brilliant smile that matched his scoring touch. He had already broken Pavel Bure's rookie scoring record with 18 goals, and this season was proving even more promising with 7 goals and 5 assists in just 14 games. As the third period wound down, Cherepanov and Jagr completed what seemed like a routine shift together. The young forward skated back to the bench, probably thinking about his next time on the ice. But there wouldn't be a next time. Without warning, Cherepanov collapsed on the bench. The crowd fell silent as confusion spread through the arena. A reporter doing a minute-by-minute account for Sportbox.ru noted only that someone on the Avangard bench is unconscious or ill, and that it was an incomprehensible situation. A player simply cannot get up from the bench. What happened next would haunt Russian hockey forever. There were no ambulances at the arena. They had left during the game. The defibrillators weren't working properly. As medical personnel scrambled to help the fallen player, precious minutes ticked away. Despite their efforts, Cherepanov was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. He was just 19 years old. The investigation that followed painted a picture more disturbing than anyone could have imagined. Cherepanov had been suffering from myocarditis, chronic inflammation of the heart, for at least a year and a half. His blood contained traces of cordiamin, a performance-enhancing drug. Team doctors were accused of knowing about his condition but trying to treat it themselves instead of consulting proper cardiologists. The fallout was swift and severe. The Continental Hockey League suspended Avangard's general manager, president, and team doctors indefinitely. The league's vice president Vladimir Shalayev didn't mince words. Our sanctions are harsh, but we are confident that prosecutors will also make their decision regarding this case. For the New York Rangers, who had drafted Cherepanov 17th overall in 2007, the loss was especially painful. They had been working to bring him to New York, hoping he would become part of their rebuilding process. Rangers assistant Mike Polino had visited him in Omsk just months before, finding a young man full of energy, full of enthusiasm, and really excited about his future in New York. Instead of watching Cherepanov light up Madison Square Garden, the Rangers held a moment of silence for their fallen prospect. His death led to major changes in the KHL, including mandatory medical examinations for young players. 3 players under 21 were immediately disqualified for medical reasons after the league implemented new screening protocols. Cherepanov's story serves as a grim reminder that even the brightest stars can be extinguished in an instant, and that proper medical care isn't just about protocol, it's about saving lives. His legacy lives on not just in the records he set, but in the changes his death brought to protect future players from similar tragedy. It was July 19, 1982, in Rome, Italy. Vladimir Smirnov, a 28-year-old Soviet fencing star, was competing in the World Championships. The arena buzzed with excitement as spectators gathered to watch the world's best fencers. Smirnov, the reigning Olympic gold medalist in foil, faced West German Matthias Baer in what should have been a routine match between 2 elite competitors. No one could have imagined that within moments, a freak accident would forever change the sport of fencing. Born in Rubizhne, Ukraine, Smirnov had risen to become the Soviet Union's premier fencer. Standing 6 feet 1 inch and weighing 172 pounds, he combined power with exceptional technique. His journey to the top culminated at the 1980 Moscow Olympics, where he captured gold in the individual foil competition, silver in the team foil, and bronze in the team épée events. By 1981, he had added a world championship to his impressive collection of medals. That fateful day in Rome, Smirnov stepped onto the piste wearing his standard protective gear, a mask made of steel mesh, a chest protector, and his white fencing uniform. The match began like countless others, with the two champions exchanging attacks and parries, their movements precise and calculated. Suddenly, during an intense exchange, both fencers attacked simultaneously, attempting to establish what's known in fencing as the right of way. Smirnov tried to block Bear's blade with an upward parry, but Bear avoided it. As they collided, Bear's foil blade snapped upon impact with Smirnov's chest protector. The broken blade, now jagged and sharp, continued its forward momentum with Bear's lunge. It pierced through Smirnov's mask, penetrated his eye socket, and drove deep into his brain. The arena fell silent as Smirnov collapsed onto the piste. Medical staff rushed to his aid while horrified spectators and fellow competitors looked on in disbelief. Bear stood frozen, devastated by what had just occurred. This wasn't just a sporting accident, it was a catastrophe that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Smirnov was immediately rushed to a nearby hospital where surgeons worked desperately to save him. The broken blade had caused severe damage to his brain. Despite being placed on life support, doctors soon determined he had no brain reflexes. For 9 agonizing days, Smirnov remained on life support while the fencing world prayed for a miracle. On July 28, 1982, Vladimir Smirnov was pronounced dead. The news sent shockwaves through the international sports community. The Soviet Union had lost one of its greatest champions, and the fencing world had experienced its most tragic moment. Bear, though absolved of any wrongdoing, carried the emotional burden of the accident. He left fencing in the aftermath but eventually returned, winning silver at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. Later, he became the head of Germany's National Fencing Training Center, dedicating himself to improving the sport. Smirnov's death became a watershed moment for fencing safety. The International Fencing Federation immediately began reviewing equipment standards. The carbon steel blades that had been standard were replaced with maraging steel, which is far less likely to snap. Masks were reinforced with stronger materials, and uniforms were upgraded to include Kevlar or high-strength nylon. The punch test for masks was introduced, requiring them to withstand 12 kilograms of force. A 5-year study later revealed that these changes had made fencing significantly safer than many popular sports. The research found injury rates 50 times greater in soccer than in fencing. In the last 100 years, there have been no reported deaths in U.S. fencing, and worldwide since Smirnov, only 7 confirmed fatalities in competition or practice. Today, fencing is considered one of the safest competitive sports, largely due to the changes implemented after Smirnov's death. His tragic passing, while devastating, ultimately saved countless lives through the safety improvements it prompted. Vladimir Smirnov's legacy lives on, not only in the medals he won and the skill he displayed, but in the safer sport fencing has become. In death, as in life, he changed the face of the sport he loved, a final, unintended contribution from a true champion. It was May 24th, 1964, a date that would forever be seared into the collective memory of Peru. The Estadio Nacional in Lima, usually a place of celebration and national pride, stood as a towering monument to the unifying power of football. That day, it was filled with nearly 50,000 fans, all eager to witness the Olympic qualifying match between Peru and Argentina. The atmosphere was electric. Chants echoed through the concrete structure. Flags waved like flames in the wind, and hopes soared high into the Andean sky. Among the sea of supporters was a 12-year-old boy named Mateo Alejandro Rivera Gomez, whose only dream that Sunday was to watch his heroes fight for their place on the world stage. Mateo had clung to his father's side with wide-eyed excitement from the moment they left their modest home in the Barrios Altos district. A shy yet curious boy with a deep love for football, he had spent weeks saving coins from errands and cleaning chores, convincing his father to take him to the match. To Mateo, this wasn't just a game, it was a rite of passage, his first time experiencing the roar of the stadium, the collective heartbeat of his country pulsing through the terraces. His small hands clutched a Peruvian flag he had made himself, the red stripes colored with markers, the coat of arms sketched carefully with a child's steady pride. The match began with fervor, and for nearly 80 minutes the crowd was caught in a wave of emotion, cheering, jeering, singing. When Argentina scored, a hush fell over the home crowd, broken only by anxious murmurs. Then came the moment that unraveled it all, a Peruvian goal disallowed by the referee for reasons unclear to most. It was a spark in a room full of dry straw. The crowd erupted in anger, their chants turning into shouts. their applause transforming into fists pounding on metal seats. Within moments, spectators began storming the pitch in protest, their rage spilling from the stands to the field. From their position in the upper tier, Matteo and his father could only watch as chaos ignited below. Gripped by panic at the looming chaos, the police unleashed a barrage of tear gas grenades without a single warning, turning confusion into a stampede of terror. The gas drifted upward quickly, carried by the wind into the upper levels where Matteo and his father sat. Panic spread like wildfire. People began to push, to shout, to run. Not in anger, but in terror. Matteo felt his father's grip tighten around his wrist as they stood, coughing and squinting through the smoke. Around them, people were stumbling, calling out for loved ones, trampling over seats in their desperation to flee. But as they moved with the crowd, the sheer volume of people pressing forward became overwhelming. The stairwells were narrow, the descent steep. What Matteo didn't know, what no one knew, was that the exits at the bottom had been locked with solid steel shutters, meant to prevent unauthorized access before or after games. In a cruel twist of fate, those very barriers became deadly traps. As the crowd surged forward, Matteo lost his grip on his father's hand. The wave of bodies carried him away, his small frame engulfed in the chaos. All around him, people screamed, some calling for help, others for air. The pressure was immense, relentless. Matteo's feet lifted from the ground as the crush intensified. He reached upward, stretching toward a sky he could no longer see, the tears in his eyes mixing with the sting of the gas. Crushed between bodies, Matteo couldn't scream. The breath was squeezed from his lungs, the bones in his chest compressing inch by inch. His flag was long gone, trampled into the stairwell's floor. In those final moments, the boy's wide eyes, once filled with wonder, closed under the weight of a tragedy he could not understand. It took hours for emergency responders to clear the scene. When the steel gates were finally forced open, what they discovered was horror beyond imagination. Bodies piled atop one another, shoes scattered like fallen leaves, the concrete slick with the chaos of escape. Matteo was found among the 328 who had perished, his small frame crumpled near the bottom of the stairwell, surrounded by the echoes of a crowd that had once cheered for joy. His father survived, but he never returned to the stadium. In interviews years later, he would speak little of that day, but would often mention how Matteo just wanted to see his team. This incident was not merely an accident of panic. It was the result of systemic negligence, poor planning, and a failure to understand the power of crowds. The tear gas may have sparked the panic, but it was locked gates and restricted exits that sealed the fate of so many. In the days that followed, the government declared a state of emergency and a period of national mourning. But there were no sweeping reforms, no major prosecutions, no cathartic reckoning. The stadium reopened, the matches resumed. The grief for many remained private. As we reflect on that tragic day, we are called to remember the cost of oversight, the weight of complacency, and the deep responsibility that comes with gathering so many in one place. And in doing so, we honor not only the memory of those who died, but the sanctity of every life that walks through the gates in hope, never imagining they may never walk back out again. Thanks for watching. Don't stop here. Click the video on your screen now for more horrifying stories.